Okay.
Okay. So ask the question.
Okay, so you've been doing conventions for 30 years, you told me.
Yeah, it'll be 30 years in April.
Jeez, so would you do it all again if you knew what you know now?
You know, it's sort of bittersweet in a way. I would have to really consider that. I'm on like almost a 60-40 split on that, where 60% of me says, no, I would never do it again. And 40% of me says, yeah, I would do it again. You know, it's like everything sort of starts off benign. I mean, I started in the 90s with a convention called Horror-a-thon, which eventually became Chiller Theater. And it was one of those deals where I had heard about conventions. I know there was the Fangoria Weekend of Horrors in New York, which was basically a pheasant under glass deal where you never really got to interact with the celebs. Like somebody would take what you wanted to get autographed and hand it to them, and they'd sign it and hand it back and whatever. And then there's one down in Baltimore. It was FanX, where they had award ceremonies and things like that. I was really wasn't my thing. But then a friend of mine, Kevin, told me he was going to do something called Horror-a-thon, and would I want to work security? He was looking for, you know, big, mean guys to work security. I said, well, what does it pay? And he's like, well, nothing really, but you get to hang out with Zachary. Well, I was a huge Zachary fan growing up. So Zachary was one of the guests, and so was Jonathan Harris, because he had a partner then. He got to bring in Zachary. The other guy wanted Jonathan Harris. So, all right, now I'm doing this. I meet Zach. Just to show how cool Zach was, I don't think he took, he gave back part of his fee, because people came up that used to be on Disco Teen, that little dance thing he used to run out of Newark, New Jersey back in the day. See, Zach was an all-around guy. He not only was a horror host, he became a DJ on one of the New York stations, like early in the morning and then late at night. So he was like an all-around guy. So, you know, like I said, I was a huge fan growing up, seeing him, his antics with, you know, Chiller Theater and Shock Cinema, you know, doing this stuff as a kid. So that was the first show. I believe the second show, they brought in Herschel Gordon Lewis, Zach again, and it just, you know, it started down in a rundown movie theater with a bunch of, you know, people that were really into this stuff, and I got sucked into the mix. Well, you know, then it got a little bit bigger. We had to move out of there. I believe we went to Fairleigh and Rutherford, which kind of was weird because it was in two buildings. It was a speaking room in one building and the vending in another building. And that's when we brought in the Scream Queens. Originally it was Michelle Bauer, Brink Stevens, and Monique Gabrielle. That's when I was bodyguarding them, and that's when I met Michelle Bauer and struck up a little friendship with her. Then we had to move again, this time to Fairleigh and Teaneck, which was bigger. The problem was, with all this stuff, you had guests in a hotel and you had to freight them to the convention center. And at that point, I believe, you know, it goes on, you know, my memory fades a little bit, but you had Dave Friedman came out with H.G. Lewis, first time they've been together in years. I believe Savini was out, Gunnar Hansen. We stayed there for a while. There was a bunch of stuff going on, but it was all cool. You know, Frank Henenlotter came out at one point. Rick Sullivan from the Gore Gazette was the MC. And then I believe what happened was we caught the partner stealing money out of the office. And that sort of ended that whole deal. Kevin redid the show as Chiller Theater. We went down to Bergen County, registered the trade name because his stupid partner registered Horror-a-thon. His asshole partner actually called in a bomb threat to the show as Mrs. Saddam Hussein. Now, you know damn well if you did that today, you'd have Homeland Security nailing your hands to a board by now. But it got stupid, and that's what happened. We decided to go into a hotel, which we did. We were bringing in more guests, and through that I met some great people. Ted Michaels, Dave Friedman, H.G. Lewis, Diane Thorne, the Scream Queens. It was all cool. Then, like everything else, it just got too big. We shot a movie there in 2003 called Unconventional, which was basically my swan song for a lot of reasons. That's where the so-called shit hit the fan as far as me being there. It got too big. Being that I was in charge of security, number one, I'm not a professional. I worked security when I was in college, which was a joke, but I got paid. It was sort of fading for me. There was problems behind the scenes, ego clashes and shit like that, like a pecking order in the program, whatever. I got to the point, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. I just got to the point it wasn't worth it. Then it's a liability because your name's on the program. And if something goes wrong in Jersey, they sue everybody. So I basically wanted out for a while, and I kept getting told how valuable I was. We can't have you out, yada, yada. Then we did unconventional. What happened was somebody wanted to document the show, do a documentary on it. So basically, they had 5 camera crews, one following me, one following Gunnar Hanser, one following Tiffany Shepis, one following 2 Uber fans, and one following low-budget filmmaker Bob Gonzo. Well, I was paid to narrate it. That was the whole deal. When they premiered it, people were getting pissy about it because they thought I was, quote, playing star, which I wasn't. I was getting paid to do a thing, and it ain't my fucking fault that I was the most interesting thing going on the damn show. Well, one thing led to another, and I left. I will say one thing, that Unconventional did run for a week in an actual movie theater in Manhattan. It ran up against the playoffs, though. But it also outdrew that South Park movie. I can't remember what it was. That's how good that was. So, anyway, not to go into graphic detail, but there's a history of this whole thing. There was an altercation. I got a beat down. It was stupid. The problem was, when the beatdown happened, I was going down to say goodbye to some people at a different convention. So after the beatdown, it was like I was getting blackballed, things were happening. Another convention running in South Jersey called Monster Mania that wasn't getting along with Chiller, so I said, you know something? Let me see if he can use me. So I called them up. They wanted to book me as an announcer. I was getting a table to do that. A couple friends of mine at work security who were disgusted with the whole Chiller deal went down. And again, everything starts off benign. You had a promoter who decided to become the star of the show. And historically, it's worth mentioning that he's the guy who started this guarantee bullshit by giving Robert Englund a $30,000 guarantee for being there. First time Robert was there, he decided to leave halfway through the show and cause a near riot because they pre-sold vouchers. So, okay, we're down there. I'm doing my thing, whatever. We would rent a suite and basically have a nice party on Saturday night, invitation only. Well, we're all sitting there, one guy's in there and he ain't supposed to be there. So he was nicely asked to leave. They said, well, who do you know here? Who invited you? He goes, nobody, I just came in. So he leaves. Well, he goes back to his room and his roommate's drunk and took umbrage to the whole thing and came crashing through the door swinging. We had wrestlers in there, we had MMA guys in there, we had some tough guys in there. I never saw it, I only heard, and somebody hit the floor. Well, that seemed to be a no-no. So the next show, my friend Roland's in the bar with the promoter, Dave, and Dave dresses him down in front of his crew because he has to look big. And he basically told Roland, something happens, you can't raise your hands, you got to wait for me to come there. And Roland goes, I can't defend myself. And he goes, no, you can't. He goes, well, that's bullshit, I'm done. That was the whole purpose, to get rid of him. So Roland comes over to me and goes, I got to talk to you. And I says, yeah, I got the funny feeling I'll be next. Nothing happened that show. So we go into the next show, I come down, and people are going, well, what are you going to sell? I said, what do you mean, what am I going to sell? What I usually sell. He goes, didn't you get the email? I said, no, what email? Seems that adult-oriented material was no longer allowed at Monster Mania. So I walked up to Dave and I go, I just found out about this. I go, what's going on? He goes, oh, it isn't me, it's the hotel. I'm thinking, yeah, bullshit, it ain't the hotel. So I said, all right, I'll go home. And he goes, oh, no, you got to do the announcing. I go, well, then you got to have blinders on this weekend because I ain't working for nothing. So I'm sitting there going, this is it. This is going to be it. So, all right, I do the thing. I try to get up, talk to him at the end of the show. He won't make eye contact with me. I email him, I phone call him, I get nothing. Of course, me being stupid went on an internet tirade and basically said that's a haven, that and Chiller were a haven for bootleggers, which it was. All of a sudden, I get this shit that I'm leading an MPAA raid down there. I'm like, where is this coming from? Guys that I know are calling me up going, what's this? I said, this is bullshit. I said, we got an issue. So I never went back. I sort of stayed away from conventions, and I had been friends with Ken Keish at Cinema Wasteland for over 20 years, and he kept inviting me up. So one day, me and Roland are sitting around, another guy said, let's take the ride. So we took the ride up, and as luck would have it, this was the show, I don't know if you were there, when the power transformer blew.
What year was that?
God, it had to be 12 years ago, 12, 13 years ago.
I started going there in 2008.
This was a Saturday.
October 08.
Okay, this was a Saturday night when the power completely went out in the whole hotel. The transformer blew, or a truck hit a transformer or something.
Yeah, I don't remember. I remember people telling me about it.
Yeah, well, it's like, you know, then the hotel found out how fucked up we really were. You know, we were just dancing by candlelight all over the bar, you know, nobody stopped. I remember Joe Netter walking down the hall with a bottle of Southern Comfort, basically stuck down his throat like a water cooler emptying.
Oh my God.
So, all right, this is, you know, where I want to be. So I kept making the ride up from Jersey till eventually I moved up here, you know, and I've been up here ever since. Things have calmed down, you know, things change like everything else. You know, my biggest issue with the whole thing is promoters that let the stars run roughshod all over them and are charging fans ridiculous prices for an autograph. Now, I will say this till the day I fucking die. If we didn't go see your movies, watch your TV shows, buy your tie-in merchandise, where would you be? You wouldn't be anywhere. But now you reward the fans by charging them $100 for a signature? I mean, it was bad enough back in the day. What happened was, people don't even know this story, people think I'm making it up, but I'm not. Mark Goddard, Dave Hess, and Lou Ferrigno and a couple of the guys had a little sit down in the Chiller Hotel bar and decided $20 an autograph. Then Raven the wrestler upped the ante to 25, saying that 5 went to Chiller. Well, he was never invited back for that because 5 didn't go to Chiller. So then it just got completely out of control. At least Cinema Wasteland, Ken puts a cap on the thing. You don't get over $20. That's it. Sid Haig, you know, who I was friends with and bodyguarded, Sid never charged fans to take pictures with him, and all these other people did. With your own camera, $10 a snap a shot, that's bullshit. And that's why I say, you know, it's been an interesting ride. You know, I never made money doing this stuff. I always had a job or other interests or, you know, hustling or wheeling and dealing on my side until I took a table at Wasteland. But I was never in this for the money. Mike Vraney from Something Weird Video gave me a shot at writing, and that's where it started. I like to write. That's why, you know, I created Grindhousepurgatory. I write a few books. I have written for Ultraviolet, Uncut, Screw, Shock, Chiller Theater, a bunch of others. It ain't like, you know, I'm not a household name. You know, I never aspired to be famous. It just happened. You know, I enjoy it to a certain extent, but, you know, it also, some bullshit comes with the territory. People try to knock you off. People try to belittle you. This has to be, and I've said this before, the only business I've ever seen where if you succeed, people shit all over you. You know, instead of encouraging you, which I try to do, that's why I opened, you know, GP to other writers and stuff. That's why I brought other girls in to, you know, do modeling on some of my DVDs to give everybody a shot. Because, you know, if Something Weird hadn't given me a shot, if Al Goldstein hadn't let me in the office back in the day, I wouldn't have had a career. Not that, you know, I, you know, harp on this whole thing. But yeah, it's been a really, you know, weird trip. And like, sometimes I love it, sometimes I hate it. But my whole longevity is up to you, the fan, because the day you think I'm done, the day you don't want me around is the day I hang it up. You know, all right, I'm not going to have a table at Wasteland because, to be honest with you, physically I can't sit there for 3 days. Dogs running around before I got to go home and let them out and stuff like that, it becomes a hassle. Plus, with every major genre DVD company having a table there, where am I going? You know, you can only sell so many magazines, so many of your own DVDs, so it becomes cost prohibitive after a while. Plus, you know, I'm unfortunately not doing a lot where I used to do a lot. You know, I would rather be at one of these things and be involved, whether it be doing panels, talks, whatever, and people seem to enjoy it, but for whatever other reason, I'm not, you know, being involved in that anymore. So, you know, there's really no point in me sitting around for 3 days. And like I say, physically, with the arthritis, I can't do it. And, you know, it becomes a hassle. But truthfully, I love my fans. I love the genre. That's the only reason I created Grindhousepurgatory, was to keep it alive. We don't make money doing this, whether you believe it or not. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I found out with an $8 cover price for a magazine sold on Amazon, I get 85 cents. That ain't worth doing, but it is worth doing for a certain reason, that it gives writers that are friends of mine that I've contacted that want to be involved a chance to express themselves, a chance to see their name in print.